This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Keep fans. Time for the best insight of your favorite team with insider Ira Winderman, exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. It's the Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat and NBA report. Here's Ira Winderman.
Alrighty. How you doing, Ira? How you feeling, my man? I don't think you're feeling, I don't know, a fraction of what I'm feeling right now, but I hope you're feeling a fraction of it at least.
You know what? It's crazy, Big O. It literally depends what day of the week and when we do these Acura Pembroke Pines reports, because let's face it, if we had spoken on Tuesday morning, this sky would have been falling. Then last night, you go against the Lakers, franchise record in assists, tie the franchise record for three-pointers in a game. Tyler Herro showing you that he is Steph Curry at the moment. This is the wave we're riding with the Heat. And again, you wind up in the same place, right? In mediocrity. You wind up at 10-10 at the quarter pole of the season. So I'm almost curious for your opinion. Is it a good thing to create hope at this moment, and then you step back and go, okay, maybe this is good enough? Or is it almost detrimental when you have a moment like that, because then you fool yourself into believing something that maybe is more than the actual reality of the moment?
You know, Ira, the way I look at it, for me, this is just a developmental year, and I'm looking at the young guys. I don't really give a shit about the big picture because there is no big picture for this team. The way I look at it, okay, Jimmy is done. He's cooked. He's a con artist right now. He's just trying to get through the season. He'll pick up his player option next year. I don't think the Heat will be able to dump him because he won't put on a stretch of games that you need in order to kind of showcase him. You know what I mean? So for me, it's really about the young guys. Last night was the Dolphins and the Canes all over again. They're stuck in the middle. The Heat have now stepped into the Dolphin zone, something the Heat have never been really under Riley, but this is where they are now. They're stuck in the middle. They're good enough to beat the dregs of the league, just like the Dolphins, just like the Canes, but they're not good enough to really handle and deal with the upper echelon of their league, just like the Dolphins, just like the Canes. That's kind of where I see this team. To me, I just want to see development out of Jaquez or Jovic or Pele Larson. That's to me what it's really all about. It's trying to find foundational pieces. And then I'm hoping, this is what I've been saying on the show, you're going to have to deal with Butler. Unfortunately, it is what it is because he's not going to play good enough to trade him until next year when it's an expiring contract maybe or something like that. Tyler is the one now. If this facade can continue, okay, which he wasn't shooting nearly as well the last couple of weeks as he was.
Absolutely. No. He was coming off a 1-10 in Boston. So you ride the coaster. Absolutely.
Yeah. No coaster. Against big teams in big moments, Tyler's not a big player. This is a shit team in shit moments, and he was awesome yesterday. I'm not impressed at all. But if you can fool the rest of the league over the next 2 months, and he can stay healthy in December and January, which he never really can do that, but if he somehow can play and do this, then maybe that becomes enticing down the stretch. I'm hoping the Heat have a come to Jesus and Riley gets off his horse about, oh, no, we can't reset. We have to retool. No, dude, you guys need to reset. There's nothing wrong with that. You've given your fan base more than enough winning, dude. It's time for you to, take care of yourself now. Go to rehab. Go take care of yourself. Go into rehab for a couple of years and, get rid of these bad salaries and try to acquire as many picks as you can if there's any shot at picking anything up from Tyler or even Jimmy. Reset your team and stop thinking about what your fans or your ticket base is going to say because you're going to take a couple of steps back, which is the best way for you to take a couple of steps forward. And so that's what I'm hoping that they finally come, because this Band-Aid approach doesn't do anything for the Heat. It leaves you in the middle. And the worst part about it, and I hate to be long-winded about this, But the worst part about it is the last 5 years were deceiving. You weren't really that good. You had the stars aligned, your coach is incredible, and you overachieved. But somehow or another, our fan base and maybe part of our media thought that this was real, and it was really Memorex. It's time for a real reset for the Miami Heat, and that's what I'm hoping for. So I don't think much big picture for them. I'm just looking at individually, which are the young guys you can build on for the future.
I take a similar but a little different view from you in this perspective. The NBA has always been about measuring yourself against the best. Sometimes the best are really good. Sometimes the best aren't, when Michael took his 2 years off from Chicago. So you could look at Pat Riley and the Pacers and the way they banged their head against Michael Jordan and got nowhere. You could look at all those teams in the West when the Warriors were dominant, and no matter what they did, Steph and Clay and the Splash Brothers at the end of the day were going to beat you. Monday was interesting. Boston was shorthanded, but still enough of who they are with the two J's to show you there is no way this Heat team is beating that Celtics team, no matter how strong this Heat team is, no matter how depleted that Celtics team is. Sort of like the Dolphins. They ain't beating the Chiefs. They ain't beating the Bills. And you have to know it also. That's when you take your step back. But we have to pull back from one thing here, because your sins of the past eventually catch up to you. Two of the Heat's next 4 first-round picks are out the door. It is easier to rebuild when you have all your draft capital to either keep or to trade and package for the one big player you're missing. So, Big O, if you're saying the Heat should reset and step back, the only way they can do that is to acquire draft capital to replace the draft capital that they've lost. And I do think there's a Jimmy Butler deal out there. It might not be for something great, but if you were willing to simply get off the possibility of his money, $54 million for next season, I think you could do something. Because I think there's always a team that says, and Warriors are a good example, that says, you know what? We're just a player or two away. We can afford to do this. This is our moment. Just like the Heat had their Tim Hardaway moment. Just like other teams seize the moment when they think they need that one more player. We saw it with the Knicks this offseason, what they did, for better or worse, with Mikal Bridges. They decided to go all in because this was their moment. We saw it with the Sixers, with Paul George, right or wrong, because they felt this was their moment. So I do think if players take a guy like Paul George, who was always hurt and is hurt again, like Mikal Bridges, when they gave up 19 first-round picks to go all in, I think that he could make a deal. But it will require what you will never hear from this team. A concession speech, because they don't do concession speeches, because Pat Riley or Andy Ellisberg or Adam Simon or Erik Spoelstra is never going to sit at a microphone and go, we're going to take a step back now so we can take a step forward in the future.
But they're entitled to this. They're more than entitled to do this. Jesus Christ. It's unrealistic to put a gun to their head every season to do what they're trying. What they've already done for a quarter century is just stupid. But the system has changed. It's a different way of doing things. It doesn't allow Riley to do what he used to do. So you've got to change your approach, man. Jesus, by the way, that's this. That's this.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you Big O. I'm going to give you another example beyond your Bitcoin mania, and I'll give you the example of college football. If you did not adjust to NIL, if you did not adjust to the transfer portal, you died. Or, like Nick Saban, you stepped away and you said the game has changed. This is not my game anymore. I can't do it anymore. Mario used to be the world's greatest recruiter. That's why they got him from Oregon. But now there's NIL money. So the charisma of Mario Cristobal doesn't matter as much as the money from the fund that they have. When it comes to the transfer portal, they want to win now. You're seeing what's happening in Florida. The Gators now have the it quarterback in DJ Lagway, and people want to play there just like the Canes had the it quarterback in Cam Ward. It's a different world. The NBA, the same thing. You have luxury tax aprons. You have limitations on the big monster trade. Right. The NBA saw what the Heat did with the big three, and they said, nuh-uh-uh. You did that before. No more super teams, so we have crap at the bottom like Major League Baseball deals with. without their salary cap, but you can still do that. We're going to level the playing field. You may not want to play on a level playing field, but that's the new reality. So, yes, it does require an adjustment. Andy Ellisberg has been very good at readjusting to the money. Now he has to sell Pat Riley on this new world, and maybe even selling Erik Spoelstra on, look, we're always going to play the games to win when the clock starts. But what we give you might not give you your best chance today or tomorrow, but in a month, in a year, in 2 years, we can reset this thing. It's a tough, tough decision for any franchise to make.
But they're entitled to make that decision. They deserve our patience. They deserve our understanding. If not, we're just going to keep fighting about this and arguing about something, and we're Gus Frerotte. We're just running our heads right into the damn wall. Into the
treadmill of mediocrity. It's a terrible phrase, but it's true, and you see it so often, so many places. If you're afraid to step down, you're never going to step forward.
No, exactly. And unfortunately, things have changed, and I just wish they would see that. And listen, the fans that don't want to deal with it, then you're really not a fan, dude. I mean, what they've given you for a quarter century, no other team in town has done that. So, be grateful for what it is. But it is very frustrating to watch them chase their tail because it's what they're doing right now.
And mediocrity, yes.
And the more frustrating part is watching Heat fans think that the reality is that they can hang with anybody, that the reality they think is like, oh, no, we're just a player away or this, that. No, you're not, dude.
Well, playoff Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, you're not. You don't have playoff Jimmy, and you don't even have another star. So you're so far away.
Everyone thinks they might still have playoff Jimmy because playoff Jimmy didn't show up because of the injury last year. And the previous playoff Jimmy was the playoff Jimmy of the 2023 NBA Finals. So again, do you delude yourself on the lightning in a bottle reality? Here's the thing. All sports have lightning in a bottle teams that shoot up to the top of the league, and in a flash, they're gone.
Right.
But you look at the enduring teams, the current Celtics, the Kansas City Chiefs, the we win the division every year Buffalo Bills. Those teams know what it takes to endure and know what they have to take to endure. It's the teams that just show up out of nowhere and go back to nowhere. You see that in every sport. Do you want to be that? Do you want to be the Marlins? You're great one year, everyone is sold the next decade. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah, the Bengals are that. Whether it's Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, or now Joe Burrow. They all had that one moment, and then they disappeared because ownership didn't keep. They had a Super Bowl team, but they chose not to keep it together so they can try to really win one. You know what I mean? It's the amazing part about the Brown family. It's just like a one-hit wonder. When Burrow went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, hey, this will be Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason again. That was my prediction because that family always ruins that moment. They're never that good.
The Rams remind me of that a little bit. And I'll give you other examples, Big O. Remember the one year when the Atlanta Hawks had 5 All-Stars and they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and the Cleveland Cavaliers said, yeah, Kyle Korver, enough. You're not that team. Last year's Indiana Pacers and what they did. And look at the Pacers now. They're garbage. They're losing to really bad teams by a really lot of points. If you let that one lightning in a bottle moment consume you, that's when you get into trouble also. So yes, 2 seasons ago, the Miami Heat were in the NBA Finals. But let's be real. The team that they had then was a team that caught lightning in a bottle, and so many pieces are gone. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. The system ate them up to a degree also because you can only do much with the luxury tax, with the apron system. So you damn well better have the top players at the top of their game, at the top of your roster. The Celtics have that. Jason Tatum is as good now as he's ever been. Jaylen Brown is as good now as he's ever been. Is Jimmy Butler as good now as he's ever been? And the answer is no. Through no fault of his own. It's like you, Big O. Big O, you look like crap now. 10 years ago, you look good. We all get older. It happens.
It happens, unfortunately. Now, Tyler Herro. My thing is, if he can stay healthy, which is a big if, for the next 2 months, and you get into February.
Sell high?
I'm trying to sell him high. and trying to get picks if somehow or another I can, the way I look at it is you can sucker somebody into it because eventually he's going to get injured. Eventually he's going to break down. And he's already shown you this season in a couple big moments, he wasn't the guy that you needed at the moment, because like when Butler was out the other night, that's when you really needed to step up and, nowhere to be found.
But Celtics, and it was the great Celtics defense, and it was a different level of competition. And Tyler had their one shining moment against the Celtics in last season's playoffs, but not an entire playoff season. That series, that's the difference. Right. I just worry about Tyler that if it's not a case of what we've heard about all these years about Trae Young, and he's putting up his numbers, and it doesn't lead to anything. And the Hawks have absolutely been trying to move that contract and couldn't, because this league knows it's about more than one-dimensional scorers. Because you give a player the ball enough, someone is going to lead every team in scoring. So it has to be more than that. And honestly, Big O, and I'm not detracting, but as much as Tyler gives you on one end, let's be honest about the other end of the floor. He is that piece of meat that everyone is looking to sick the dog on. They are playing switches through him and Duncan Robinson. Sometimes you watch these games, even the Toronto game on Sunday, and you say to yourself, like, there's got to be some better way to defend this because they're simply going right at him. Yes, Tyler, when he has a 31-point game, probably still gives up 24 the other way, and that's the problem. You need more of a differential from your leading man like you used to get with Jimmy Butler, who might have only given you 22 points a game in his prime, but he only gave up 8 to 10 because his defense was so good. That's the difference.
Yeah, and the saving grace, and here's where I may be ignorant on it, and I need your expertise on this. But if he can at least stay hot offensively in the next 2 months, his salary now is really not
reasonable.
Right. It's not completely ridiculous. So if it's a team that fundamentally is pretty sound and says, hey, we're hurting on the scoring side. Yeah, he's going to hurt us on one end, but he's going to help us. And maybe we could bring him off the bench as an igniter type of thing. And the salary is not necessarily as crippling now for us. That's what that team is thinking, compared to what we were all thinking when they initially signed him and all that kind of stuff, and then afterwards. So I'm thinking maybe it's a little bit more flexible, and maybe a team that has the luxury, the aforementioned Golden State or somebody else they think they're on the brink or whatever, and all they need is one scorer. Maybe somebody bites with Tyler.
I'll give you the perfect comparison because it hits home to the Heat so much. Last year, there was a team that was looking for instant offense because it was struggling on offense and felt that one more backcourt player could make the difference. The price the Miami Heat paid for Terry Rozier was a potential unprotected first-round pick and discarding salary. That's probably the market for Tyler. You can get an expiring contract, and maybe, because Tyler's in a better place now than Terry was, Tyler has done it in the playoffs. Terry really hasn't since Boston. Maybe you get 2 picks. Maybe you can get a first-round pick in 2 seconds. Maybe you can get something like that and an expiring contract, and you can get off of money. Maybe you could throw in more expiring money, whether it's more money like a Duncan or someone, and move off that money. That's the kind of deal. That's why the Rozier trade hurt so much. Forget about whether Terry is getting done or not getting it done. That first-round pick they threw into the wind with someone like you, Big O, and our accurate Pembroke Pines report is saying they need to collect assets. It kind of, I know this sounds cold, but they kind of crapped one away when they made the Rozier trade in their desperation. So what you need to find, Big O, is a team just as desperate this time around that looks at Tyler and maybe has similar thoughts.
Yeah. Any suggestions? I mean, it's still early, so, things change so much, 2.5.
And again, the market's day by day. Look, there's no better example than the Heat. One day the Heat are sellers because they're awful. The next day, we can contend and we can get to number 4 in the East and get a playoff seed and have home court. So, it's the pendulum up and down. There's a reason the trade deadline is in February. You'll be through half your schedule. You'll have an idea of, 1, who the outside teams are, and 2, who the Heat are. You'll have a much better read by then.
All right. What are you working on there in the Sun Sentinel, my friend?
Well, I'm working about, I wrote my Ask Ira today about, please do not overreact. Yes, the Heat look great against the Lakers, but the Lakers maybe just stink after all. They're nothing more than a play-in team in the West, so people exhale a little. Doing a story about midseason, and Big O, you're not going to like when I posted an hour or two at sunsentinel.com. but Erik Spoelstra still believes something special can happen with this roster. And God bless him. And he's almost become the Tony Robbins of the Miami Heat, where he thinks he could talk it into existence through the power of positive talk. Maybe he can. Look, that's who the guy is. Again, you talk to me all the time about when the Heat's roster is awful, and you even admit there is no one better about turning chicken crap into chicken soup, chicken feathers into something delicious. That's what he does. So in a way, to your argument, Erik Spoelstra is almost a detriment because he's going to try to make something out of this, where maybe some other team in lockstep would say, hey, Spo, come on, this is not the deal. We'll get you something better in the future. Don't delude yourselves or delude us. But that's who Erik Spoelstra is, and God bless him. And I'm also working on a story on Tyler Herro.
Wait a minute. Are you saying Spo is doing a flow? Is that what you're saying? They're trying to tank and he refuses to tank?
No, because Spo is this is the difference. Spo is breathing positivity into his roster. He is the anti-Brian Flores. He's not calling out his players. He's not demeaning. He's not minimizing. And you know what, Big O? Here's the difference. He's not reducing the value of his assets. God bless Erik Spoelstra for telling us Tyler Herro is great. God bless Erik Spoelstra for saying Bam Adebayo is going to come around. God bless Erik Spoelstra for saying Terry Rozier still will be a thing. That's what you do. What kind of nitwit devalues the value of his assets and tells you that Tua is a bunch of crap, so even if you were to trade him, he's not worth anything? I want my coach to say my players are great. I want my coach to get on the phone with Billy Donovan, calls and offers a deal and says, you have no idea what Duncan Robinson is going to do for you by spacing the floor. God bless him. This is not a Spo thing. This is a Riley thing, an Ellisberg thing, a Simon thing, a Nick Harrison thing. They'll get the house in order, but as rickety as the foundation is, Erik Spoelstra will coach the crap out of it.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. And the same thing goes with Tyler. Even if they're thinking and wanting and hoping to trade Tyler 2 months from now, they'll never tell you. They'll never make any kind of,
Here's the difference, Big O. Here's the difference. And he will play his ass off. Whether Tyler Herro's involved in trade rumors or not, he will give you his best because he already has. Because no Heat player in the last 3 years has been involved in more trade rumors. But Jimmy Butler's a different story. If you expect Jimmy Butler to build his value so you can trade him, hey, that's a much tougher thing when he's not going to show up in certain games, even when he's on the court. I don't know how, Erik Spoelstra is great about pushing Bam's buttons. He's great about pushing Tyler's buttons. He's great about pushing the buttons of the younger kids. Jimmy Butler ain't got no button. Jimmy Butler pushes his own button when he damn well decides he will. And so we sit back and we wait.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it immensely.
Pleasure, and I'll take my salary in Bitcoin this month. Thanks, Big O.
You got it. That's the best way it grows.
You've been listening to the Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA Report with Ira Winderman. When you're looking for award-winning service and great deals from the #1 volume Acura sales dealership in the Southeast United States, you go to Craig's Inn Acura of Pembroke Pines at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the